All right, welcome to another episode of the Freezin for NFC North Podcast, episode 39. Happy Thanksgiving. Lions surging, Vikings stumble, Bears tanking, and the Packers, maybe they're packing it in, plus Week 12 preview. And I had to throw that in there, and we are packed this week with a lot of Packers fans, so we're going to get to that. But first of all, welcome back, Shelby, Vikings. Where can everyone find you?
Shelby Tweten on Twitter and Instagram, TikTok. And then Aries Archive is our clothing for the Vikings.
Eventually, we'll have to get you to do a Bears one. I don't know if you can probably branch out to the Packers at all or
Stop
not.
saying that, because every time I tell you, just message me, and you don't message me.
I know. I'm ducking you. I'll get something to you. Okay. So, and we've got Tyler and Jake from the Wisco Fanatics. How are you doing?
Good. Great.
Well, it could be better, obviously.
Right.
We'll get into that. We also have John from the Green Bay. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great.
So, and another Packer podcast, Ryan from Packernet. How are you doing?
How you doing?
And finally, welcome back, Rev Trev. I'm glad to have you back with us as well.
Yeah, I'm loving this. Like, I don't think I've ever had so much Packer support. I've always been by myself. So welcome to all the guys here. So
we need it. It's like a group therapy thing.
Yeah, I was thinking that. We need a little bit of counseling.
Hosted by his Bears fan. Did you ever think that was going to happen?
Yeah.
You take it where you can get it.
Hey, and well, speaking of that, let's kind of get right into it. And it was a Thursday night game. The Packers, the loss versus the Titans. They didn't have enough. Let's just do a little kind of postmortem on that game. And I'm going to start with you, Trevor.
Yeah. So coming off a massive win against the Cowboys, were the Cowboy Killers, apparently. So that there was a lot of good feelings walking into that game. I don't know. I guess I can speak for all of us. We probably were a little nervous, like what team's going to show up? Is it going to be the one that's been really struggling for a number of weeks, or are we going to see the team that came out with the Cowboys? And I feel like we got a mixture of both. There were times and moments we looked really good, and there was moments we were like, wow, this is who we are. So my biggest takeaway was, you know what? The Titans are actually pretty good and have a really good defense. Tannehill actually looked surprisingly good. I think only missed like 5 passes all night. And that's probably the biggest takeaway. They stopped our run, right, guys? Like, that's just what happened there. And then Rodgers just had to throw. And they were just too good. And like you said, we didn't have enough. So,
yeah, Ryan, what were your thoughts of that game?
Yeah, so in a very weird way, the Packers and Bears, I think, are actually kind of similar in that despite Aaron Rodgers being on the team, they're both offenses that have a running identity. And if you can't run the ball, you can't pass the ball. And so against Dallas with a terrible run defense, you saw the Packers dominate on the ground, and then the pass game opens up. Well, Tennessee has one of the best run defenses in football. And so if you can't run and then you can't pass because you can't run, your offense implodes. And at the same time, our defense is falling apart. And so it's kind of garbage. So I think you're going to see that all year. If you go up against a team with no run defense, you're going to see that like, oh, man, they actually look pretty good. This is kind of crazy. And then you see a team with a good run defense, and it's like, this team is just complete garbage. And I think that's just kind of what it is right now.
What about on the defensive side of the ball, Tyler and Jake? What are your thoughts kind of on that?
Go ahead, buddy. So for me, it's a lot of it has been almost the entire season, honestly, has been a tale of two halves with the Packers. It's been a lot of, they play a really good first half, they play a really good second half, but they haven't played a really complete game. And this game was no exception. Jake and I, like Jake said, we do our other show on Friday nights when we do our Packers shows. One of the topics that I have is the offensive momentum and the defensive momentum not carrying at the same time. So the offense had all the momentum in the first half. They were scoring touchdowns. Then the second half, the defense gets some stops. They get an interception from Rasul Douglas, and then the offense stalls. So it's, the offense was good in the first half. The defense was good in the second half. and the opposites were true for the opposites.
Yeah, I know our podcast here, we've talked about, from the beginning of the year, the defense was going to have to try to, carry the team with the receivers. Now you have Christian Watson stepping up. But with this game, John, from GBC podcast, is this on Rodgers then?
Well, a little bit. I mean, your instinct is to say, well, Aaron Rodgers doesn't play defense, but to agree with the point there, certainly a lot of missed opportunities. And in that second half, and it was probably the first time this season where we got to say the defense kept us in the game, or the defense gave us a chance to stay in the game. So yeah, something with Rodgers. So to kind of back up too, I've been to a few games this season so far in stadium, and even starting with the New England game before the thumb injury, he's just been off. Something is off. It's just not there, and it shows up more, I think, in person than it does on TV. TV, they like to zoom in on his face when he's mugging and rolling in his eyes and things like that. But in the stadium, you can see it. He's not crisp. The throws aren't there. I think at first we wanted to blame the receivers for being out of position or not being able to run good routes or not being able to get open. But it's definitely on Rodgers. I don't know what it is. I can't say what it is. I can just say that something is not right.
Jake, do you think there's any chance, and we'll get into this more a little bit later too, but do you think there's any chance that maybe, Rodgers is just kind of like, already checked out and maybe won't be back next year?
He's coming back. He's not checked out. I absolutely do not believe that the professionalism of Aaron Rodgers is going to allow him to check out in the season.
Professionalism.
I mean, the guy.
Rodgers is all business when it comes to playing football. Just because Minnesota has no class and posts him getting injured, that's not my problem.
Okay. We're the classiest.
Rodgers threw the one block.
I wanted to take some shots. I'm so happy of Vikings fans on here. I wanted to take some shots at you guys. You guys were like, show some class about the skull clap. I'm like, you guys literally posted Rodgers like injuring, like breaking a bone. You want to talk about class? I'm sorry. That bothered me.
That's a while ago, eh? Like you
Wasn't
kind of
that
holding on.
Holding on to a
3 years
lot
ago?
here.
4
Yeah.
years
I know,
ago?
but isn't it ironic that you guys are talking about class and then
Well,
you're
it's just
posting
funny
that?
because you ask any of like actual football players, and Minnesota Vikings is known as like one of the classiest and the most family-oriented teams.
I mean, the fans definitely own Green Bay, so that's pretty family oriented. Yeah.
The fans that they talked you into giving money to for a stock that actually isn't real.
Yeah, but we get to go ice skating next to the stadium, and it's
Oh
awesome.
my god.
That is pretty good.
What about
Yeah.
what about
So you'd rather be
kids riding
parts of the
bikes
tracks that
in
you
a
have no
training
choice.
camp?
Yeah, that was a good point, Tyler.
And I'm glad somebody brought up the stock thing, that it's just a piece of paper,
Mm-hmm.
because I want to ask, because I'm glad there's a Bears fan here.
Mm-hmm.
Packers, they issue this stock, which you can actually attend the owners meeting. It's virtual, so you don't get to go like in person. But
I almost actually bought some just to say that I could, own the
there you go.
Packers.
So you see, even opponents want to help us, but
That's so awesome.
but you get it to where they issue this stock, which you can then attend the stockholders meeting, and then you look at what the Packers have done to Lambeau Field, adding more seats, more renovation, 2 gigantic jumbotrons. All that stock that's just a piece of paper goes into making the stadium better. And this is why I'm glad to ask a Bears fan, because do you think the Bears would turn down the opportunity to have that stock offering to improve Soldier Field?
Well, they don't need it, right? They've got these owners, and they're already, going to be moving into a new stadium, and in Arlington Heights, and I'm okay with that. I'm not a tried and true have to stay at Soldier Field, especially just the way it's not even owned by the Bears. It's the Chicago Parks District, so I guess similar to your point, yeah, I mean, anything that would pour money into the team that could help the team, yeah, that's great. It does seem kind of like a weird kind of ploy though to the fans, right? I mean, in my opinion, to say, okay, well, hey, how about you pay for this? When I think they looked at it.
It's a more literal contribution to the team than, say, buying a jacket at the pro shop.
Well, or if you go in person, I know, John, you said you go in person. I think I saw a study that going to the Packers game is actually probably one of the most expensive, tickets in the NFL.
Not if you wait and catch the secondary market like Thursday night was. Thursday night,
right?
You could have gotten in for under $50 pretty easily.
I mean, me and Tyler went to the game for free. My boss gave me free tickets.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the Packers, boss, so far this year, let's get into the Vikings game here.
All right, here we go.
So, obviously, it was not a very good week for the Vikings. So, Shelby, do some postmortem on this game. They're just absolutely crushed by the Cowboys and
it's
shut
funny
down.
because literally like 15 minutes before the show, I'm in Minnesota right now, and I was like, I'm so not excited to be trashed on this podcast. It was hard because I was watching with my friend who's a diehard Cowboys fan.
Oh.
So I was sitting there like, I've been talking shit all year, obviously, like ready for us to watch this game together. I honestly checked out a little bit after halftime, but I talked about if any of you guys watched last week's show, I had already kind of prepared for a loss, because one, I feel like the Cowboys, we haven't really won against them. Last year we got embarrassed on Halloween. And then on top of that, I would have rather us lose now than lose later. But what I did say is I wanted a good game, and that was nothing close to a good game. I was like halfway watching. I was like, oh, they scored again? Sweet. But my biggest fear was the pass rush, and I have never seen, in all the years that Kirk has been there, our offensive line has always been an issue up to this year, but that was like, it was scary. Like, he was getting lit the fuck up. And when we don't have Kirk, so that means we can't utilize Hawkinson, we can't utilize Thielen, we can't do anything other than Cook running, but even then, that's not much. And we have Dak doing his thing. Their offense was doing their thing. Our corners, haven't been doing great. And then we should have a good pass rush with Za'Darius, and even they didn't really do anything. I think it was a game that was embarrassing to watch, and I think it put a lot of people kind of like, there's so many things that came out in the last week where it's like, do they deserve to be 8-2? And it's like, but at the same time, every single weapon that we've had in every other game was shut down. So I think we almost got out-coached than anything. And, I hate saying that because I love O'Connell.
You got out-coached by McCarthy.
Mike McCarthy.
Ouch.
Well,
Trevor,
he did. The game plan was he put holes in every single thing he was supposed to do. Like, the game plan was attack, all the things that they were supposed to attack, and they utilized it to their strengths. So,
the Cowboys do have Micah Parsons. That was huge, right?
He's pretty good.
He's a stud.
It's all right, yeah. So, Trevor, what were you kind of thinking about when you saw that game?
Yeah, well, I honestly thought the Vikings were gonna show up a lot better. Like, let's, you're coming off the biggest game of the year, one of the most exciting game of the year. And I don't need to go back into that too much, other than I can't believe Josh Allen fumbled in the end zone. But you go in, and that's a pretty big high, and everyone's like, this could be the Super Bowl matchup. Vikings are legit. They got the monkey off their back, and it was disgusting. They didn't show up, and that's why I was surprised. Like, I don't know about you Shelby, but or anyone else here, is like, I was just shocked to see that. Now, like, I don't know what, like, the Dallas Cowboys are good. Don't get me wrong. Like, I've been saying since day one, and Andy, that I picked the Cowboys to win the division. So I believe in this team, unfortunately. But going from getting beat by Green Bay to going to dominate the Vikings absolutely shocked me, because there was nothing that the Vikings did that worked at all. Like, this is they are a playoff team. The Vikings are making the playoffs. And so how in the world can you lose 40-3? And I'm not saying that to be rude. Like, I'm just saying, as an NFL fan, I was blown away.
I think that, piggybacking off what you were saying, my thing is, I've always said from the very beginning preview to the season is that the Vikings do better with a chip on their shoulder. Every single time there's too much highlight on them and they are in the spotlight, you come off, I mean, the best win that I've seen in my lifetime, really, from Vikings. And you go off that. I was scared about it last week. I knew they choke every single time. It's sad. I think that we're still an amazing team. I know that we're going to make the playoffs, obviously. But, like, that has always been my fear, and that's also why I kind of wanted a loss, because I didn't want to go on an 8-9 game winning streak, just like I was saying last week with the Eagles. They said the same thing, where they were like, we don't want to go on a winning streak because I would rather we kill the high now and go into the playoffs kind of an underdog rather than having all this pressure on them, because I don't want another Eagles NFC championship. Like,
well, I want to go on a winning streak. Anyone else?
It's going to be tough for the Packers. But, Ryan, does this an indictment, do you think, on the Vikings as a whole right now?
Well, it's confusing because, prior to the Bills game, everybody's saying they're a complete fraud. Well, it's like, okay, well, they haven't had an opportunity to really prove anything, so this is going to prove it. So they beat Buffalo, and it's like, well, I guess they're not frauds. And then they get stomped out by Dallas. And I understand it's a bad matchup or whatever, but 40, it's a little more than like, I don't know, we just don't match up real well. So, I mean, New England's playing some pretty good football. I know Thursday is kind of wonky no matter what, but it's kind of like this is sort of a tiebreaker. I mean, if the Patriots kind of spank them a little bit, you're kind of looking at they're not that good of a football team. If they beat New England, it's like, all right, I just need that one game to kind of balance this out, because I'm not sure what the Vikings are right now. They kind of have a 2019 Packers feel to them. They win a lot of games, but their point margins are pretty garbage. They're kind of a little fraudulent, you might say, which I took offense to at the time, but now kind of acknowledge, we were kind of frauds a little bit. But we got to see, because I don't know. It's a little unfair because everybody's kind of a fraud because everybody sucks. You go to any team with a winning record and it's like, you haven't played anybody. Well, there's no good football team, so that's not really fair. So right. We'll see what the Vikings can do. I'm not sure. I mean, they're going to be good enough to get to the playoffs. The only question is how authentic are they, and are they really going to go on a run in the playoffs? And I really don't know right now.
I also was very sad because Kirk had one of the longest streaks of a passing touchdown in each game, and that got ruined. Ooh.
I wasn't sad at all. That was so. I had so much fun watching that. They cut the game away. Why did they do that?
They did. I was like, damn.
Come on, man. I think we know why.
That was.
Well, they cut out when she cut out.
The game off. It was just getting.
They cut out when she cut out, man.
Exactly.
Right
after
they all
stopped watching.
No, I literally was in the bar and all the TV shut off and went to the other game. I was like, this did not just happen. So embarrassing.
It was like that Simpsons meme where the dad walks in the door, puts his hat down, walks around, and walks out. All right, we're done.
Yep.
We're done.
Pretty much.
So let's go ahead and we'll get back to some of the previewing games and everything. So talk about a team that maybe we don't know if they're a fraud or not. John, I wanted to get your take on the Lions. Obviously, they rode former Green Bay Packer Jamal Williams' victory over the Giants. What were your thoughts on that game?
Well, first, this is a great statistic that I just discovered here. In his first 5 NFL seasons, Jamal Williams had 13 rushing touchdowns, those 5 seasons, most of them in Green Bay. This season, he has 12 rushing touchdowns. So he's having he is having a career year there in Detroit. This is a team that I think last year, we got to joke about him. We got to goof on him because Dan Campbell, the biting kneecaps kind of story. And finally this season, they ended a 22-game streak of being the underdogs. They're favored in a few games. They're covering spreads. They're winning games. So this is a team that is starting to show that potential coming through. And the fact that they kind of took it to the Giants was pretty impressive, because I think the Giants had been quietly performing well this season with their running game. I think that we probably expected more of a traditional smash mouth running game, football game between these two teams. But Williams had he had 3 in that game, right? He had the hat trick there.
Mm-hmm.
So credit to Detroit for finding their groove and getting Jamal Williams to live up to that potential. You got to remember, Williams was drafted ahead of Aaron Jones when Green Bay drafted him. He was a 4th round pick. Aaron Jones was a 5th round pick. Wow. Jones developed faster, but Jamal Williams, he's got those hips. If you watch him in warmups, he's got those hips, and he just knows how to use them.
He's got the Dak hips.
He's
dance.
Smooth.
I'll tell you that.
He is smooth like butter.
Well, yeah. I mean, Tyler, are you at all worried about the Lions?
Not currently. I still think they're at least a quarterback away from being any sort of playoff contenders. I know people will be like, "Oh, Jared Goff is in the Super Bowl," and it's like,
barely.
Like, let's be real. He's in the Super Bowl that year because of that defense.
Yeah, and the Vikings
not because of anything that Jared Goff was doing.
Rex Grossman was in the Super Bowl too. So
and Todd Gurley,
Todd Gurley. That's a good point as well.
True.
So for me, if the Lions were to get one of C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, or maybe Will Levis is a guy that I like, if they were to get one of those 3, I might be a little more worried. But until then, and now they're going to need a tight end with trading TJ Hawkinson. So they're going to be that. I mean, we'll see what Jamison Williams is. He was just designated to return for the Lions, so they'll get a little bit of time to see what he is. And their defense is getting better, but I don't even know if they're in the top half of the league yet.
Yeah, and you look at, you look at the schedule. So the Packers do play the Lions the last game of the season. I mean, is that going to be an Aaron Rodgers sitting out? So Jordan Love game?
No. For me, and I've said this, I've heard Jordan Love be brought up like, oh, Packers should start Love. They should start Love, drive his trade value up, see what he is for Rodgers to retire. Whatever the Packers are doing at quarterback for starting game of 2023, that's who needs to start the rest of the season. Mm-hmm. Because whoever is going to be playing quarterback next season needs to be playing with Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Samori Toure, whoever else is sticking around next year. The quarterback for next season needs to be playing with those young guys as much as possible.
Well, yeah. And so I said this, all throughout the offseason as well. I mean, you talk about that, right? And Rodgers, my question on him is why wasn't, and I know they say, a lot of quarterbacks, weren't in the, all the offseason stuff, but why wasn't he doing that then? And then now, will this broken thumb continue to be an issue to maybe force him out of the lineup?
Go ahead, Jake.
Oh, God. I don't even know how to answer this correctly. So I say no. I don't know the reason why he wasn't at training camp. I mean, look at Favre for how many years, right? He's like, I'm going to retire just because I don't want to be at training camp. I'm going to come back. And then, I've gotten in arguments with people on Facebook, because they talk about, Rodgers should be sitting out because he's hurting the team with his broken thumb. I'm like, but you people were literally just congratulating Brett Favre when he had a broken thumb and he was playing through it. So it's like, it's splitting hairs at this point. You're always arguing with somebody about something. I'll say this. I 100% agree with Tyler on the point of Rodgers needs to stay in if he's going to get camaraderie with these young guys. And everybody wants to bring up the training camp. There's no experience like game experience. So that if Rodgers is going to be in, and Sammy Watkins, by the way, just got moved down to 5th on the depth chart. So he's only ahead of Samori Toure. So that's great news for Packers fans because no offense to Sammy Watkins, we don't trash players, but good God, I look like I can run as fast as him right now, and that is not good because I sit on my ass all day on Sunday.
Trevor, I mean, I think that's something I was saying to be in the offseason that, obviously you're talking about receivers and Sammy Watkins. Oh, he's going to be great. Well, no, he's got to play, the entire season, but then he's a shell of what he used to be.
Yeah. I wasn't, and I think when I came on your show, I was not excited about the Sammy Watkins. I don't know a Packers fan that was excited about the Sammy Watkins signing. We were like, well, can he stay healthy? 2, can he keep up? And the answer to both of those is no. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. You say we don't trash our players, but like I'm excited he's 4th. I hope he's 5th on the chart soon. Like, it's just like Amari Cooper. Why in the world did we have him on the team and he kept fumbling the ball? Right? It is
Amari
what it
Rodgers,
is.
Yeah.
I wish we had Amari Cooper.
Oh, sorry, Amari Rodgers. My apologies. But that is when it comes to Watkins and these guys, we want these young guys to be developing. We want these guys to be taking steps. So is he a filler? Okay, cool. But I'm not a fan of Watkins. There's nothing that he's shown this year that makes it look like he's gonna continue to be effective. And so we don't need that. We need to be developing these other guys.
Speaking of developing the young player, I want to ask you, Shelby, first. Obviously, we've talked about Justin Fields and his development. Are you the Bears did lose to the Falcons 27-24, which I was not all that upset about, with what the Bears need to get. Are you ready, Shelby, to say that you're a Justin Fields believer yet? Come on, you can do it. It's okay.
That's a big question. Do I think that he's developing? I do.
I'll take that.
Would I say that I'm a believer that he's gonna be the game changer for the Bears? No. But I think that it has been really cool kind of watching him. But then you look at someone like Jalen Hurts, and it's like overnight. Like, because last season was meh. But then this season, it's like whatever he did in the offseason has been a complete game changer. And they're very similar in the fact that Justin Fields runs a lot and all of that. But until we've talked about this every week, but until he gets that accuracy and he gets all of that taken care of, I don't think that he's really a threat, but I definitely do see that he's developing.
I'll take that. Ryan, what about you? Are you ready to kind of, say that Justin Fields could be the next great quarterback?
No, he's trash.
Oh, tell me why.
He can't throw the football. He can run fast. So what? Who cares?
Thank you.
The guy can run. We know he can run. We know he's fast. He runs like a 4.3. Whoop-de-doo. So what the Bears did is they said, we're going to try to make him throw. And then he can't throw. So all right, we're going to make him throw 5 times a game because he sucks at this and we're just going to run all the time. And they're like, you know what? I have an idea. He's fast. How about we run Monty and Justin Fields? And then you run for 400 yards a game and still lose. And it's like, look how good he is. It's like,
hey, he did have some wild plays. The biggest thing I'd say with Fields is obviously with the line, and I get it, Packer fans, you want to say he's trash, now I'm definitely I like what I see from Fields, but to say he's trash, I think that's
I think the line is doing good. The reason he gets sacked 40 times, which is like 10 times more than anybody else, is because his time to throw is like.
Have you watched the center play? Oh my gosh! Like every game they come.
Everybody has one bad offensive lineman. He holds on to the ball too long.
They've got like 3.
He also is number 1 in sacks that are his own fault.
That's part of it. That's
sacks
part of
that
it.
Are attributed to himself.
But on the other end, he actually creates more with his legs, and he has to.
Right.
John, tell us a little. What are your thoughts on Justin Fields? I'm ready. Everyone, bring it.
I'm just going to take a different approach here, just because my coworker and my friend is a Bears fan, lifelong Bears fan. He has to live in Milwaukee now.
That's where I'm at. So
he is absolutely in love with Justin Fields, and so the camaraderie and respect that I think Packers fans, Bears fans have for each other, I'll stick up for him. I'll stand behind Dakota and say, hey, if you love Justin Fields, then I love him as well. I think he's brought some hope to the team. I think he's certainly a spark. Dare I compare him to how Colin Kaepernick played the game? And, watch out how Kaepernick ran all over the Packer defense. Can that happen in a couple of weeks with Fields? Probably not because of the injury now, but that potential was there. I think just like what Shelby was saying, though, with Jalen Hurts, I think we felt the same way about Hurts a year or two ago, too, that, okay, so he's fast. He will develop as a quarterback. I think you've got the right coach there. I think Eberflus is going to do well to bring him along. I think you guys are going to do fine. You just give him the time he needs and keep supporting him, and I think you'll do all right.
The biggest thing, yeah, I mean, you talk about play calling, and he was injured, and I have liked what Getsy has done, with some of the play calling. But then in that Falcons game, he was there was some really odd plays at the end where you knew he was injured and they were still running him. So I do agree. I'm not going to say, Justin Fields is trash and, all that. He does have a lot of growth that he needs to, obviously, with his accuracy, with throwing windows, with when he moves, then, be able to, on the run, doing a lot of those things in the passing, obviously he I am going to disagree though. The Bears do not have a good offensive line. If you've been watching the Bears all season long, it's terrible. And so that's a big part of it. Yeah. I mean, Justin Fields' knees continue to grow. I mean, as far as the rest of them, Tyler, are you kind of on that same vein of Fields not being the guy?
I'm kind of in the middle on this. Like, I'm not going to be like, oh, he's straight trash. Like, he can't do anything right, because he is a capable runner. So I will give him that. Mm-hmm. He did throw a football into the side of his right tackle's helmet this past Sunday. That did happen.
Yeah. It's a big helmet, though.
Yeah, but Greg Cousins threw the ball to the Buffalo Bills defender and no one else is around. Right? Are we gonna?
The defender's farther away, at least. At least you could try to explain that one away, dude. He threw it right into the helmet of a guy who was 3 feet away from him.
Okay. Well, Rodgers did it versus the Lions.
Rodgers did the exact same thing.
All right.
Well, I just feel like with Fields, it's different because he makes great plays, but his bad plays are like, whew.
That's kind of been Rodgers this year, though, hasn't it been?
Well, you know how I feel about Rodgers. There's too many Packers fans in here because I will start going off.
You're in denial.
I would talk shit about a guy owning you my whole life too. So,
except this year, and that's
it's funny to me when Vikings fans talk about Rodgers because Rodgers has more touchdowns and fewer interceptions than Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Well,
doesn't he have more than that for everyone though? Like, isn't that his thing? He's got hardly any interceptions.
Trev, he literally has the best ratio of all time. So to say that is kind of
insane. But you said this year matters.
Kirk Cousins last year had the best until the end. He only had 3 interceptions until week 14.
Gotta finish.
This year is different, and he still had a very low percentage. This year is different because now we're all of a sudden an offense throwing team, and now he's been told to just we don't even care if you intercepted, just make fucking plays. He's just throwing it up, and a lot of times we wouldn't have got that legendary JJ catch if it weren't for Kirk having the balls to do that. I think that Rodgers, he's such a statistically driven player, which is exactly why I said this year has kind of been nipped him in the bud a little bit, because he cares more about his numbers and his statistic than doing what he needs to do to win the ball game. So do you want a quarterback that doesn't care about his stats and doesn't care if anyone likes him, but his team
we had him before Rodgers. His name was Brett Favre.
Yeah, so did we.
I've seen that guy.
And we love Brett Favre.
If Kirk Cousins is taking more chances, wouldn't he have higher interception numbers if he's succeeding more?
Maybe it's just better.
Wait, what do you mean?
Well, you're saying Kirk Cousins is taking more passing chances, and that's why his interceptions are higher. Would his touchdowns not also be higher then?
And his yards and his completions?
I mean, JJ,
and if Rodgers is so statistically driven that he's only throwing touchdowns?
Considering JJ just passed the yardage for the all-time yards for the first 3 seasons,
I'm gonna be honest. I don't give a shit about yards. This is yards do not score you points. I don't give a shit about yards.
Most of our touchdowns this year have been by Cook or Madison. Or
Okay,
even like
so,
the pitches to.
I mean, yards get you closer to the end zone, but they don't put you in the end zone. You don't score points for yards unless
But
you're playing
again,
fantasy football.
Kirk Cousins' touchdowns doesn't matter because, like I said, he doesn't care about his. We care about winning. And guess what we're doing this year? Winning. Yeah,
You know,
we're talking about this year.
We're
Yep.
talking about
No,
we're
you're
talking
right.
about this year, and
This year.
let's go ahead and let's get into that Vikings game. Then we'll get into the Packers game because obviously the Vikings have been winning. Aside from the Cowboys loss, when you look at this week, Shelby, does this have to be kind of a statement for the Vikings to say, okay, we need to get back on track?
Oh, 1,000%. I mean, again, like I've said, all year, people have called us a fraudulent team. After this last week, even I said it last week. I was like, I'm waiting for the dime to drop, right? And first off, I'm going to be at the game, so that alone gives me anxiety. And then I just think that with the Patriots, this is going to really show because I personally think that this is going to be a game of the defense rather than a game of the offense. They have the number one scoring defense, but their offense is Mac Jones has 4 touchdowns in the year. So I think that it's going to be big on Zadarius Smith, big on Danielle Hunter. As long as they keep pressure on them, I don't think that they're going to have a lot of scoring. But then on the Patriots side as well, offenses aren't scoring because their defense is so good. Their pass rush is good, just like ours. So for the key on both of them, it's going to be whoever keeps the defense on the field longer. But, yeah, I definitely think that I'm a little nervous, but I've been nervous for every game because I'm just I'm a Vikings fan. There's just no way I'm yeah, we're going to the Super Bowl. I just want a good game, and after the last game, I know that we're capable of being better than that, and I know that we have the tools, and I'm not afraid of Mac Jones or their offense at all. I just want us to be able to make the plays and not get shut down like last week, and then I think that we won't have a problem as long as we're not getting shut down on offense.
John,
Real quick,
go ahead. Yeah,
real quick. I just want to throw it on the Patriots offense.
Mm-hmm.
Don't underestimate Ramondre Stevenson.
Mm-hmm.
Just want to throw that out there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, that might have to be the key. And when you look at that,
looking at what Tony Pollard did, I mean, you can. Ramondre Stevenson is capable of doing the exact same thing.
Thanks, by the way. I have Tony in every fantasy football league, so appreciate that.
Well, and Cook's going to have to run a lot as well. It's going to be a running game for sure.
Well, when you look at the Vikings and the Packers, I mean, the Bears, all those teams, obviously the line is important. And without, Darisaw is not going to play, right?
I don't think so, which is
so that could be hard.
Huge loss for us, yeah.
And when you look at the Packers, when they faced New England, what did you learn about the Patriots, John?
Their defense is a lot better than you think they are. So you don't have to be afraid of Mac Jones if you don't want to, but Matthew Judon is going to make you shit your pants a couple of times. So be prepared for that. I will say, the thing I do like about Minnesota is the fact that they kicked off an 8-game losing streak this last week. So to finish the season 8-9 is going to be epic. So I'm really looking forward to how you guys finish out.
That's real confident there.
And they're probably still going to win the division.
Hey, that's all that matters, right? Getting in the playoffs.
Yeah, I read that we're still in the playoffs no matter what, so it doesn't really matter.
Well, they're not clinched yet, but no.
Hey, yeah, you look at this. Okay, so Jets, and they're a mess right now. At Lions, Colts, Giants, at Packers. And as we talked about before, in a weird way, I think the Bears actually might beat the Vikings that last week, even though the Bears are stinking right now.
The Bears kind of own the Vikings, though.
No, that's exactly what I said last week. It's
to
at
be
Soldier
honest
Field. We suck there.
Yeah, the Bears kind of own the Vikings.
Well, not at. Oh, yeah, I went to the last year, the last game of the season, and that was just the ending. It was a historic evening, the ending of 2 regimes for both teams. But
I've always said it's also, if we're going to the playoffs, 99% chance our starters are not going to be playing that game.
Right.
So unless you're playing for a bye, but
yeah,
which it could be.
Well, speaking of one team maybe not in the playoffs, one team in the playoffs. So when we look at this Packers at Eagles game, I mean, what are some keys that you see for this game, Jake?
Man, where do I even start? First of all, defense. Holy crap.
Mhm.
So I was going to save this for my own show, but I'll say it here. Against the Titans, we give up 8 plays of 10+ yards. That is absolutely ridiculous.
On third down too, it was crazy.
Yeah, that was tough.
First
I won't
drive
lie.
picked it off.
Yeah, first drive was tough. Packers have to get pressure. It seems like without Rashawn Gary, the pressure hasn't been as consistent. They have been getting there, but it's not as consistent because you don't have that one star rusher, right? So we have to blitz a little bit more, which leaves us, with one less defender to defend the pass. And apparently we're just going to play our corners 15,000 yards off the wide receiver on 3rd and 6. Good God, I want to cuss right now just thinking about it. But, we gotta get pressure. We got to contain that running game, and we have to be ready to be physical. When you guys were talking about the Vikings before, and the guy above me running Packernet podcast talked about the comparison between the 2019 Packers and the 2022 Minnesota Vikings, the one correlation that I have is both teams are soft. They are very finesse. The Minnesota Vikings are soft as baby shit. And trust me, I know what baby shit looks like because I have one. I wipe her ass every day.
And
Vikings,
the Eagles are hardcore. Like
the Eagles will punch you in the mouth.
Yeah.
And adding in Ndamukong Suh did not make that any easier.
Now they will literally punch you in the mouth.
Yeah.
And they'll step on you.
They will.
So the Packers have to be ready for a physical game. I mean, they're going to be wearing all blacks. That's going to be fucking intimidating. I won't lie to you. So Rodgers, his thumb, everybody, we better be ready to go.
Black?
The
I
Eagles.
want all black. Oh, I want all
And
black so bad.
The black
I'm so
helmets
jealous.
too. They got the
Yeah,
black
it's
Wow.
all black, bro. That's going to be intimidating.
Nice.
I'm not
That's
going
Hey,
to
the
lie.
Cardinals
crazy.
did that last year.
And you're in
And-
Philly. That's another thing. That's
On Sunday Night
Packers
Football.
went into 8-0 Arizona last year with no Devontae, no Lazard, no MVS, and beat an undefeated Cardinals team.
But that's
Throwing that
also the Cardinals. Philly is a scary
They were the
place.
undefeated Cardinals.
Okay. But you say that now, but because hindsight's 2020, right? But in the moment, on the road, Thursday Night Football,
Mhm.
and nobody
Right.
thought we had a goddamn chance.
Look,
Nobody in America gave us a
I
chance.
actually want the Packers to win this week. I
No,
actually
No,
want
you don't. No, you don't.
I do
No,
because
you better take that back. Because I'll tell you right now, Aaron Rodgers gets on fire, we coming for your ass. I so badly want the Packers to play the Vikings in the playoffs.
Oh,
I want that
that'd
so
be
bad.
fun. That'd be
Oh, it
fun.
would be a
especially
great
if
time.
We're talking
probably
about-
gonna have home field advantage. And
I'm gonna have to pull
I'm
up
ready.
Herm
Beat you at
Edwards.
US,
We're talking
so.
about who is the Colts head coach?
Yeah, playoffs.
When he
Talking
done-
about playoffs.
Oh yeah, Jim Cora.
Oh,
It's not over,
Jim
but
Mora.
it's close.
No,
Yeah.
we don't say
Oh, yeah.
it's over until we're mathematically
Yep.
eliminated. On our
Yep.
show, we are very optimistic people. We are
Yep.
so sick and tired of people just ripping people down. You know how many
Mhm.
conversations we had about, because we are advocates for mental health. Okay,
Yep.
so
Mhm.
mental health is a very important topic that nobody talks about, right?
Unless they're
Hey,
Vikings fan.
I literally have a podcast on mental health.
That is awesome. I will have to give that a listen. Now, I know you guys see me talking a lot of shit. I
We're
just like
coming
to have
together.
fun.
I love this.
Me
This is great
too.
stuff. Yeah.
I'm
There
not.
we go.
I'm-
We're besties now.
I'm a nice guy, really, in true life. But when it comes to sports, I just want to have fun because it's my escape
Mhm.
from reality, right?
Same.
So-
Thank you.
We really advocate positivity, and Tyler's really been the driving force. This guy is a maniac. I mean that in the best way possible. I respect the hell out of this guy. He has really turned my mindset around, his mindset, his family. We are going to change Packers fans, Badgers fans' mindsets on being more positive. You know how many times we had the conversation of people talking shit about college kids?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Really?
Yeah.
These kids are 20 years old. What were you doing at 20?
Yeah.
Probably not throwing touchdowns on Saturday. I could tell you that.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
You were
It's-
walking out of Sally Joe's apartment building who you don't even
Sally
like.
Joe.
I don't know. It's just a name.
apparently an Alabama apartment building.
I was
we
crowd
go-
surfing at Iowa football games.
Right. You go onto social media, like we're running a sports show, so we're in lots of Facebook groups. You go in the groups and you will see 10, 15, 20 negative posts to every one positive you see.
Mhm.
And listen, there's 32 teams in the NFL. 31 teams are not going to win a championship every year.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think all 31 of those teams want to burn every jersey they have just because their team didn't win a championship. So bottom line is, regardless of what your team's record is, there are still positive takeaways to find in every single game.
Yeah.
For the Packers, even though they lost to the Titans last Thursday, we are seeing Christian Watson blossoming into a star
Totally.
right in front of us. The dude has 5 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. Seeing it's tough. This is going to college football real quick, but the reason that Jake and I are doing this so aggressively is now that we've gone from the point of optimism and positivity and positive takeaways and looking for improvement is also calling out negativity and meeting that force with the same force that people are negative and basically throwing it back at them. And Graham Mertz for the Badgers has been the biggest example, because the Badgers are playing Iowa, and the Badgers lose to Iowa that day. And Graham Mertz also passes 5,000 career passing yards in that game. 70 comments on Twitter, every single one of them negative.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. It's like, what is, and you know what you say, that's what you become. People don't realize that your self-talk is so important. So what you say about, the teams that you're supposedly a fan of, and then you talk so shitty about them, like, how do you think you're going to react when it's time for you to self-evaluate?
So I mean, you guys have seen it who follow me, but it does not matter what I post. I have people in every single thing that have something bad to say. I posted my grandpa who was dying, and they were like, ew, you're really going to post this? Clearly you're looking for attention. And then when I snap back at them, then, because I have mental health advocate in my bio, and their go-to thing is, and you call yourself a mental health advocate? I'm like, you came on my shit. I'm like, I have multiple awards in the mental health community, and I've literally spoke professionally on this for 10 years.
Nice.
And just because, I'm not just like throwing that shit out, but I'm saying the main thing is like, there's a difference between like talking shit and like, ha ha ha, and coming on and being like, you're a terrible fucking person and I hate you. And I love that you're doing that, because people need to understand the difference. Like when I got blown up on Twitter for being like, oh, Kevin O'Connell is better than Mike Zimmer, and then everyone said I was the most terrible person that deserved to die. It's like, there's a difference between me acknowledging, hey, this is working and this wasn't, instead of viewing it and being like, oh, this is a terrible person that I hate. Like, some
not
people,
to mention that's just a matter of personal preference. You're just saying a preference is coaching.
Well,
exactly.
So I want to kind of draw a little bit of a distinction here, like, because obviously, Trevor and Shelby, you've heard me talk about the Bears, and for me, I always build myself as an honest Bears fan. Yes, when we play the Packers, like, I kind of get into it, and I'm just like, yeah, I want them to beat the hell out of Packers. I live in Wisconsin. I got a ton of buddies here in Wisconsin that are Packer fans. I also lived in Minnesota, so I always give crap to Minnesota fans. But so when you look at it, I think there's a difference between like trashing your team, right? Yeah, like everyone can kind of throw out an opinion like, this player is horrible, this is horrible. But when you kind of look at it honestly, and kind of where the team is, and kind of take that fan emotion out of it, right? And look at it, because when you look at these players and coaches, it's a business for them, it's a job for them, right? And they want to see how they can improve. And so, Trevor, when you look at this Packers team, obviously a lot of people said that they were going to be Super Bowl bound, and a lot of that was because of Rodgers. Rodgers has done it before. He gets the credit where credit is due. But when you look at this Packers team, what about this team can improve to maybe start a winning streak for at least some positive results for the win-loss record this year?
Yeah, I'm just really hoping we win on Sunday night. I think I'm not afraid of that game. They just lost to the Commanders, and I know the Commanders beat us. Okay. And I find myself as a realistic Packers fan. I'm not a biased. I don't think we're going to win the Super Bowl every year, but we have some things in our organization that are very good. And I'm looking forward to the progression. I love our running game. There's fantastic. We've had a bad season, but people would kill to have a season like us sometimes. You know what I mean? To have players that we have, and so I'm excited about it. Like coming up, like I want to see what happens. Now I think we'd all be a little surprised if the Packers won on Sunday night, but at the same time, it's like it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
And if we win Sunday night, why can't we win the next week?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like. Why not? And I know that, we've had the downs this year, like 5 losses in a row. That's the reality. And that's where we're at. So what can we do? I think Rodgers, as my Packer brother here has mentioned, he has not played well this season. I think he needs to play better this Sunday night. And that's where you start. And the rest of them, I think the O-line is going to hold up. I have this weird feeling. What game was it we were supposed to get trashed on? We lost to the Jets, and then all of a sudden someone came in and we were like, everyone's like, we're going to get hammered. And the O-line stuck together and gave us the opportunity to be in it. I think there's a lot of positives still happening in Packer land that I'm personally excited about.
Personally, I cannot wait to see Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs on the field at the same time. We've barely had it at all this season. And that going forward between those two and seeing Quay Walker continue to develop, like all 3 of those rookies, I'm having so much fun just watching those 3 guys, regardless of the score even.
Speaking of, whatever happens versus the Eagles, when it comes to the Bears season or the Bears game, John, if the Packers were to lose to the Bears, where would the Packers go from there after the bye week?
Boy, you put that if is doing a lot of heavy lifting there, isn't it? Yeah.
It's possible, right? Anything's possible.
Anything's possible. Whereas I'm banking on a 6-game winning streak to finish things out here. But so looking ahead, so we got to get past Philadelphia first. So, and then you're saying what happens if Green Bay loses to Chicago? Kind of like what the guy said earlier. You have to look at what else you have on the team. Now, if you're expecting Aaron Rodgers to be your starting quarterback next year, then yes, you continue to play him. But if you think that Rodgers has checked out or is ready to check out, then you move to Jordan Love. Now, I don't know that you can fall back on that thumb injury anymore. If they were going to use the thumb as an excuse, they would have used it by now to take him out, to let him sit for a bit. But yeah, I don't know. It's a tough question because I like taking them one game and I want to look at just Philadelphia for right now. But yeah, if you assume a Philadelphia loss and a Chicago loss, the season is done. And what you do after that is just you still play to win the games, right?
Right.
So yeah, Ryan, when you look at, I know Wisco Fanatics, I know you guys are kind of like you say Rodgers is going to be there next year. So Ryan, do you think Rodgers has more than a year? What is it? He would 2024 also, or is 2023 going to be it?
I honestly believe him when he says he doesn't know. I know there's a lot of reason, there's a lot of money involved and he loves the game and all that stuff. But I also know he loves off the field stuff and football is a grind. It's draining and he has to put up with a lot of crap, with the media and everything else. And I think he's going to take some time and come to a decision. I think he'll want to come back, but the team being bad is not going to help that either. And you can say, well, maybe it'll get better. Well, maybe it will, maybe it won't. Do you want to come back and win 6-7 games again? And just so you can reap in $60 million extra or whatever it is? Or do you want to just say, you know what, I want to go enjoy my life? I don't know. I'm not Aaron Rodgers, but his answer to that question, and he just answered it this past Tuesday, was I don't know yet. And last year he took a month, 2 months or whatever to think it over and make his decision. And I think he's going to do that again. And I really don't know what he's going to do. I do think he's going to come back and like everybody said, that's why Jordan Love isn't going to play. That's a statement by the Packers. We're moving on and they're not going to make that statement. So Aaron Rodgers is going to stay in, but I don't know what he's going to do. We'll have to see. And I think the way that this season goes on, if they show some fight, if they beat the Eagles, if they do stuff like that, maybe it'll give Rodgers some hope, but if the defense continues to decline and the offense, that Dallas game was about all there was as far as hope, he's not here for a 2-3 year rebuild. He's not interested in that, I don't think.
Well, with that, I wanted to kind of then start off with you and just kind of look into the future of the next 5 years then. So go ahead, Ryan. Who do you think between the NFC North wins the most division titles? Obviously, a lot of it is contingent on kind of Rodgers being here or being with the Packers. But kind of realistically, which NFC North team wins the most division titles in the next 5 years?
Man, that's so hard. I mean, you literally can make a case for all 4 teams. I really do like the Packers and their roster, but look at them, and the problem is, where do you go from here? Like, well, they need to acquire talent. They have talent. They're not doing anything with it. So that's a big problem. The Vikings are the best team right now, but the future, they're not really a future built team. You got
their schedule is going to be harder next year when they win.
Well, the schedule and plus it's maybe a little fluky right now, but also your quarterback is a question mark. Zadarius and a lot of guys that are propping you up now are not future pieces. The Bears, I think the biggest question is Fields, right? Obviously, I talk trash about Fields or whatever, but it was the same thing with Trubisky. I talked trash about him, and then I was terrified the next year because it's like, dude, if he figures it out, we're in trouble. It's the same thing. If he doesn't, Bears can't do anything. If he does, the Bears will be the answer. And then the Lions, it's just a matter of, can they finally get enough talent? Because they overachieve better than any team in the NFL, but they don't have any talent anywhere. If they can get a quarterback, if they can get a couple pieces on defense, I think they could be a scary team. But if you're forcing me to pick a team, I'll just be biased and say Packers, but I really don't know. I don't have an answer.
Jake, what do you think?
I want to be biased too, but the team that I'm most scared of is the Detroit Lions. Now, if you watch their games, they play hard. And we all want to make jokes, and I know I forgot who brought it up, but the knee biting thing, I'll tell you what, they love that man. So you know what they're going to do? They're going to run harder. They're going to hit harder. And I don't know if you guys watched the HBO, but that speech that Jamal Williams gave, man, I got chills from that, man. I felt the heart. I felt the soul in that speech where he talked about last year wasn't it. Now, the reason why I said the Lions is because they absolutely robbed the Rams, and they have a top 5 pick. So, like my compadre, the smarter half of Wisco Fanatic said, if they can get a quarterback, we're in trouble because Jameson is coming.
He is. Tyler, are you on the same wavelength there?
I kind of agree with you can make the case for everybody. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think the Vikings stand the best chance to run the division for 5 years with continuing with Kirk Cousins. I don't think Kirk Cousins is going to win you anything in the playoffs. I also don't think he's going to lose you anything. I don't think he's going to cost you games, but I don't think he's going to save you games either. So I think the Vikings need a more versatile, more dynamic quarterback. Kirk Cousins, like if you thumb in the dictionary to the V's and you look up vanilla, like there's a picture of Kirk Cousins. Like that's so like Justin Jefferson is fantastic. He's easily top 2 wide receivers in the NFL. Adam Thielen, he's not going to be around for the next 5 years. TJ Hawkinson is an interesting piece for them, but statistically, Kirk Cousins hasn't used the tight end very much. So that doesn't really move the needle for me on the Vikings either. And then, like he said, with Zadarius Smith, he's not going to be around forever either. And neither is Harrison Smith. So, I mean, there's guys that are getting old on the Vikings, but they do still have some young guys. The Bears need to like completely restart on defense outside of maybe Jalen Johnson.
Agreed.
So
Agreed.
The Bears to me are the least likely.
Yeah, Brisker. Yeah.
Brisker, sure. Other than that, like the Bears need a complete reset on defense and wide receiver.
Although
and offensive line.
I was going to say, I was going to say your guy, Jack Sanborn, Wisconsin guy, has been amazing. So
yes, sir.
Yeah.
We're going to be linebacker U pretty soon, baby. We keep putting those boys in the NFL.
So sorry to cut you off, Tyler.
Oh, you're good. That's fair.
He was being sarcastic.
I mean, when you like people want to trash Justin Fields, and not that I want to give him an excuse, but he doesn't have a good wide receiver core.
No.
And people made fun of the Packers for they're running forward with a bunch of rookies, and it's like, Packers rookies are starting to perform. Romeo Dobbs broke out a little bit, and then he got injured by Kirby Joseph, which I'm not fucking happy about. But that's a couple weeks ago, so I'm trying to move on. But I'm still mad because that was a dirty hit to go low and hit him in the ankle. And then he gets fucking defensive player of the week that week. Okay, moving forward. Anyways, I haven't moved on. If you can't tell, I'm still fucking salty. The Lions are getting there. They have a couple linebackers that are overperforming. Their safeties and corners aren't as bad as people make them out to be, in my opinion. I think some of them have some talent, like Tracy Walker. Like Ifeatu Melifonwu is a guy who hasn't played a ton, but was a highly regarded prospect. So I might actually agree with Jake on the Lions. But like I said, they need one of those quarterbacks. And if they draft CJ Stroud, they better hope to break the Ohio State quarterback stigma.
Fields already has.
Fields is he's getting there. He's not over the hump. He's at the top of the hill, and he's going to slide down one way or the other.
Fields is getting there. He needs to get a little bit better on reading his progressions, but he's
right.
getting there.
Fields needs to take a step on the mental side. He's got the physical tools. There's no denying that.
Well, talking about that, I mean, night and day, Bears versus Jets, night and day between Zach Wilson and Justin Fields taking accountability. I think that was huge. That's what I've wanted to see for leadership, and I hope they sit him because I've seen enough that I think he can be a fantastic quarterback. I have. He's got a lot to learn, but you don't want to re-injure anything. Sit him down, but he's definitely got that leadership. Ability.
We actually shared a Justin Fields video at the beginning of the season from him sitting at a table at training camp, and this kid comes dressed up to him as Justin Fields, and he's like, "You're my favorite player," and it's like. That's where we advocate not only for the optimism and positivity aspect, but also for the respect aspect. So it's like, hey, like Justin Fields plays for the Chicago Bears. We hate the Chicago Bears, but we don't hate Justin Fields for making a child happy. Like nobody can hate that.
Yeah, how do you hate that?
Yeah, I know, right? Like the little kids so happy. Like, that's awesome. So on the point of who's going to run the division for the next 5 years.
Just say the Packers.
That's where I'm at, just because I feel like they have the most opportunity to be consistent over the next 5 years.
But what happens after Rodgers? That's the thing, and obviously I get the Lions is a safe choice for everybody. It's not the Bears. It's not the Vikings. But that quarterback is so important. When you look at it.
Make that case for basically every team in the division.
Yeah,
whoever's quarterback plays the best over the next 5 years is going to run the division.
Exactly.
Oh, absolutely. So, John, where are you at? What do you think between these teams?
Well, five years in the NFL is a long time. You have to look at 5 years from now. There's going to be 80 to 90% turnover on all four of these rosters. So, from that perspective, you have to look at which front office has been most consistent, most successful. Now, Chicago and Minnesota, both those teams started over this year. You brought in
terrible front office.
You brought in new front offices, which I think was a good move for both teams. So we have to wait and see. The jury is out there. The nice thing, with Detroit, is they loaded up on some draft picks, and if they can hit on them, they will do fine. I'll go out on the limb and say, in the next 5 years, will Detroit finally win one of the division championship titles? Sure, probably within that 5 years. But overall, who's going to win the most? I think you have to look at the consistency of the Green Bay Packers organization, of the front office. Are they a little bit conservative? Sure, but they're not going to match the moves of their dumbest competitors. They're going to play it straight, play it consistent. And where you guys talk about Packers positivity, I really appreciate that, because I grew up in Green Bay. So I had lived through the 70s and the 80s. I saw how terrible it was to have an executive committee try to make football decisions and things like that. So to say over the last 30 years, the consistency in Green Bay definitely is something that's going to continue to carry this team.
I want to throw out two real quick for the next 5 years. We talked about this before Packers season started. The NFL salary cap starting in 2023 over the next 11 years is going to have $113 billion. That's with a B into the NFL. The estimates are by 2027, which is 5 years from now, that the average salary per team could reach $300 million by 2027.
Wow.
So people are like freaking out, like, oh, Rodgers is taking up all your cap space. It's like, just do a little research. Next year, it's going up to 228, I believe. And it's only going to keep going up and up and up. And then it's going to look like Rodgers' deal is a bargain once Josh Allen gets paid and Patrick Mahomes gets paid again. Once those guys hit their next contracts and they're making $60 million a year, it's going to be like, oh, the Packers paid Rodgers $50. That makes sense. So by 2027, team salaries could hit $300 million.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I mean, anytime you have Rodgers, the Packers do have a shot, and especially when it's a motivated Rodgers. But Shelby, can you break up the Packer love fest here a little bit?
The Lions. It feels weird to be giving the Lions respect.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with what you guys have all said. I think everything is going to come down to the quarterback. The fact that, because you look at the Packers, obviously they've won the most out of any team. So it's consistency is there, but this is potentially the first time in at least 30 years that they might not have one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So that's going to play. There's no way he's going to be here all 5 years. That's just realistically not possible. So I think that that's going to come into play. As for the Vikings, realistically, I kind of hope that we draft a quarterback next year and he works under Kirk Cousins for at least a year. And then we'll see from there. But exactly like you were saying, I think the biggest thing is going to come down to coaching. And I think the Vikings have really shown, I have a lot of trust in O'Connell. I think he brings out the best in players. But I don't think the Lions, I think the Bears would be my biggest fear, just because they do have the most cap space. And if there's more cap space coming, that's fucking crazy. I think that they have a lot of things that need to grow, but at the same time, I think that they're showing the most progression. The Lions, I understand what you guys are saying, but it's just like there's something just so missing. Like I feel like there's such an aggressive team, but the coaching doesn't seem to be there. They don't have the it factor, where the Bears you kind of watch and you're like, okay, there's like a little something stirring here if they get the right weapons. But for me, I honestly would choose the Vikings, but like you were saying, is it Ryan?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I was saying, I've always said our defense is mostly vets. At the end of the day, we have a lot of old players, which is good, but it's all going to come down to who we keep and if we get a lot of good new draft picks. But
who is the backup quarterback in Minnesota?
Is it still Mannion? Or is it Kellen? Oh, they traded for Nick Mullins.
It's Mannion, yeah, but
Mullins was in the game last week.
Mullins, yep.
Okay.
That's the thing about Kirk, though. If we're talking about consistency, he's only missed 2 games since he's been, and that's the one thing I do love about him is he's tough. The one game he missed was against the Bears because we were going into the playoffs, and then the other one was because of COVID. So that is one of our biggest things. Everything's going to come down to consistency. And I think that our division is one of the most unpredictable divisions right now because there's so many moving pieces.
There are a lot. Trevor, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it just comes down to who drafts the best.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I look at it, and I think that's why a lot of us are showing some Lions love here. They have 2 first-round picks this next season. They also have 2 second rounds, and then they have their own third.
And they managed to fleece the Vikings in the draft 2 years in a row too.
Right.
But we have the most draft picks. The last
and you'll
2 years.
You'll end up trading up 4 spots, but giving the Lions 2 picks to do it.
Lions also have the guy that drafted Pat Mahomes on their team. I'm just throwing that out there.
Right. So,
yeah, but there's only one
Bears,
Pat Mahomes, so
the Bears had loaded up on picks as well.
Mm-hmm.
But the moving to get Claypool, you basically traded Roquan Smith for Chase Claypool.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that's a good trade. You know,
he wasn't going to sign with.
right.
Right.
So,
go ahead.
So my point is that the Bears, if they fix their O-line, but the problem is they have huge holes on defense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they have a little too many holes. I want to throw a huge monkey wrench into this. If we're going to be talking about draft picks, and I agree with a lot of you guys, I think Rodgers will be back next year. But let's just hypothetically talk about Rodgers not being back next year and he doesn't retire. What if there is a trade like the Denver Broncos got for Russell Wilson and Green Bay gets a whole bunch of picks? Our team looks totally different. Please don't give us
Drew Lock.
Right.
That would be the smartest thing the Packers could do is get off
Drew Lock.
Well, no. Get off. Trade. We talked about this last week. Trade Rodgers to the Colts or some team like that and get picks. And while obviously you want to keep winning, but you don't want to just basically let Aaron Rodgers dictate what. Just take this franchise hostage. I mean, that's,
Well, giving away Favre clearly worked.
We got Clay Matthews out of that deal. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Jake,
So it's
Jake and I talked about this not before this season, but before last season. And I think we were kind of in agreement that the only player or team that we would want to trade with would be the Chargers. And if Justin Herbert was involved.
That's it. I cannot handle watching Rodgers play for another team. You know how many heartbreaking losses I've witnessed in my life? I don't need to see Rodgers in another NFL jersey.
You know how many you have dealt with? You're a Packers fan. What
Right.
are you talking about?
2014, 2015, 2016. You want
The
me to keep going?
Lions has been their entire franchise.
It's true.
So
Yeah, but they're used to it. We
Yeah.
like win everything in the regular season, and it's like, all right,
Y'all are
is
so
this the year they get over the
spoiled.
hump? And then it's like, fuck.
I mean,
all right. So I'm gonna give my pick here, and then you guys can roast me here. All right. So 2022, Vikings are gonna win the division. We say that, right? We'll go with that. 2023, and hear me out here. 2023, the Vikings are gonna win it again because obviously the narrative can change. A quarterback can change quickly. If Cousins can do something in the playoffs, I think with all of the talent they have on offense, I think they win. 2023, 2024, 2025, I have the Bears winning because I think, with some of the defensive pieces by then will be developed and hopefully a receiver.
Sign Khalil Mack.
Sign Khalil Mack? No, he is a shell. No. So I know you guys obviously say, some of these picks, these trades were bad. Roquan Smith wanted a ton of money. It was smart. The Bears have been stupid front office for so long, trading up. I mean, in the draft room, Ryan Pace was asking around when he drafted Trubisky. He said he was asking everybody in the room, "Oh, you had him number one, right? You had him number one." He was asking people. So now we have someone in the front office that knows football. They've got an assistant general manager. They start to have that. Foundation there. So I like that. The Lions, I think, win 2026. I think the Bears again with Fields 2027. So I'm going to say, and I didn't want to say the Bears because I think I like where the Vikings are at. But I just, the quarterback play is huge, right? And I get it. You've got Aaron Rodgers and you have a shot, but I know the hope is, and Packers fans, you've been spoiled quarterback after quarterback, but it's going to be huge drop off. And I know it doesn't matter how much talent you have. If you don't have the quarterback right, it's not going to happen.
That's an assumed drop off. We don't know until it happens. Obviously, it's so much easier to say that, we went from Favre to Rodgers with no drop off.
5 years.
I mean, Tom Brady's 45, right? That's 7 years older than Aaron Rodgers. That's 7 years older than Aaron Rodgers, right?
Rodgers said he could play for this year. He said he could play for the next 3 years. That was what he said on Pat McAfee's show on Tuesday.
When you look at him going on all of these different shows, right? With Bill Maher, all these other shows, he is setting himself up. to do all these other things. Like, I don't know, John, what your kind of thoughts are, but I mean, do you see him just continue to play beyond 2-3 years?
I think there was a time where I did.
Yeah.
But like I said, this season has it's been hard to watch. Just because something is off. So if he can figure it out, great. And I apologize. I got distracted because you talked about Roquan Smith. And I just wanted to say that I was sad to see you guys let AJ Klein go. My kids go to the same high school AJ Klein went to at Kimberly. But he's now over in Buffalo. But yeah, it would have been nice to see AJ get a chance to play against the Packers later this season. But yeah, as far as Rodgers goes, I think he wants to. What is he, 38? 5 years would be 43.
I think he's going to be 39 in December.
It's like December 7th or December 6th.
How do you know that?
My sad brother. Come on.
I think you've got the two. You have to assume he's staying here for 2 more years just because of the salary cap hit. Even regardless of the increase in the limit, but his ability to
It'll
play
get restructured too. Russ Ball, the wizard.
It's the ability to play, and like I said, I've just been very frustrated with this season. The one thing I'll point out to you too, again, if you watch a lot of his passes in slow motion when he's got that ball, how do I want to show it to the camera here? The point of his ball is facing downward a lot of times, and that's why all those passes are just off target. He's rushing his throw. He's doing something that everything is even though his motion is good. If that ball is pointed downward when he lets it go, that's why everything has been low this year. And it's been like that. Like I said, I noticed it starting in the New England game. And I don't know, maybe he has the yips. Something's there. And if he can figure it out, great. Then he'll stick around for a while.
Well, and you bring up Tom Brady. Tom Brady is also winning Super Bowls. I think maybe if you guys somehow but I'm saying that's why he stayed for so long.
Is a team game. Yeah,
no,
he also is getting divorced because he's staying so long.
Well, no, that's not what I'm. No, exactly, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that the Super Bowls are that's what makes him the best. I'm saying he's stayed because in the last 5 years, he's won 2. Yes, 5 years was 2017. Anyway. That's why, and that's exactly why he's getting divorced, because he's so win hungry. If y'all don't win the division next 2 years, I just can't see it's realistic that he stays, because he has so many other things going for him already that he could retire right now and become an announcer.
I don't know. He's not going to do anything football related when he's done.
Yeah, I agree.
He said that. He said he's not doing coaching either. He might do like the podcast appearance thing, but with I forgot what we were saying right before that.
Well, I was gonna say, Jake, one of my favorite. I know you say football's a team game, right? But one of my favorite movies, and actually it's probably fitting for this week. Remember the Titans. Julius says in that movie, attitude reflect leadership. So when you look at it, yes, it's a team game, but if you have a quarterback, I mean, you look at the Jets, right? They have a fantastic defense, and they have a quarterback. They made a change because of his attitude, and Rodgers, Packers are not going to do that. He's going to be the quarterback, but it comes down to leadership. And is he going to provide that? And yeah, I mean, it's easy to point fingers at other people, but Rodgers needs to take it on. I mean, I was, even as a Bears fan, I was picking the Packers last year to go to the Super Bowl, because you don't bet against Aaron Rodgers, but his narrative, it's for 12 years now, it's been, he can't get the team back. And obviously he beat the Steelers, but he beat a third string quarterback, Caleb Haney, to get into the Super Bowl, right? And so at some point he's going to have to face the music and say it's on him, and that's what you want from a leader. And he's pointing at other people. And so, when you look at a football player, you want him to take responsibility and say, yes, I'm going to do this. And Tom Brady, he points the finger, but he does it, he elevates everybody. He does that. And you want to see, as a Packer fan, I think you would want to see that from Aaron Rodgers also.
Okay, let's talk
Let's
about
go.
this. Let's get the glove off.
Let's
here.
do it. Let's do it.
Trev,
Okay,
you already
so
know
I'm in. Okay, so against the Buccaneers, that was not Rodgers' fault.
Mhm.
That was Kevin King's fault. He was terrible. You don't let a guy get behind him. But last year against the 49ers, I put that on Aaron because at the end of the day, you need to win that game at home, and you can't. We lost by a blocked punt. And we only, what did we score? 10 points? That's just not good enough. Okay?
Well, we also had a blocked field goal.
Right. What I'm saying
and
is,
we fumbled the ball in the red zone.
Right. Okay. But the point is that Aaron didn't do his job. Let's just be honest as Packers fans. Okay. And I think what you're trying to say, Andy, is like, he's got to take ownership. I agree with you. He's got to take ownership. The fact is, this season, we came in with a subpar wide receiver core that was young. And everyone knew it. And none of us were sitting there going, oh man, we're going to be like top 5 offense. I predicted we're going to lose to the Vikings week 1, right? Because we weren't ready. But I'm watching, there's progression going on now.
Watson scares me. Christian Watson scares me.
I think, yes, you're right. I'm sick and tired of him pointing fingers at everyone else when he's played not great. And so I'm okay with that. I think we need to be realistic. But in saying that, we've also seen him do things that nobody else does. And he's my favorite player of all time. But at the end of the day, I'm tired of the eye rolls. I'm tired of him talking about his wide receivers the way he does. But I feel like we're making progress, and I'm excited about what I'm going to see in the next coming weeks. So I'm not counting on you went through and said Vikings win next year. No, they don't. And I like the Vikings. Don't get me wrong. I think they got a lot of good things going on. I'm not down on Kirk Cousins like everyone else in this room, but that team is good. I think the Packers with a Rodgers can win the division next year. There's no doubt in my mind that that's a possibility. It's a realistic possibility. So yeah, am I biased in that? Well, no, it's maybe, but I've seen it before a lot. And so we've got a couple things to clean up big time. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know if it's this, we're going to fall off the map now, Andy. And I appreciate you coming in and saying, like, I think it's good to have a bold take, but we're now having a bold take saying the Packers are going to bounce back.
And I can see it. Well, obviously, yeah, I mean,
sorry,
if
I just
Watson
ranted there.
No, that was great. If Watson continues to take that step, and if Dobbs, I mean, I started the beginning of the year talking about like the Bears having a better wide receiver core. That's obviously not the case now. Packers, with Watson has that ability, and the Packers definitely can get there. So it'll be interesting. And this has been probably one of our longest episodes. It's been a lot of fun. Where can everyone go ahead?
Can I throw something out on the Rodgers leadership thing?
Yeah,
because this is a perfect example of what mainstream media does to sports fandom.
Say it louder for everybody, Tyler. Come on.
People need to watch a little less ESPN, a little less Skip Bayless, and listen to Aaron Rodgers himself. Watch Aaron Rodgers' post-game interviews. Don't just watch the 20-second clip of him being pissed on the field after a play doesn't work. Listen to him after games where he says, we need to be better. He uses the word we, not they. He says, we need to be better, myself included. Last week, he said, I played like shit. He literally said that.
Nope, he didn't. Mainstream media didn't show that part, Tyler.
Listen. Tom Brady throws a tablet, and it's passion. He's screaming on the field, and it's because he's demanding better play. But Aaron Rodgers is mad on the field, and he doesn't talk to his wide receivers on the field, which he does, but they will not show you that on television because they don't want you to think that. But you watch, and this is like Twitter is the best for this because there's so many beat writers, especially with the Packers, that will show you the stuff that's not on television where Rodgers is talking to his receivers. Then I've talked about this probably 4 times in the last 5 weeks. You get into Rodgers' post-game interviews, and people ask him, do you think this team is capable of making the playoffs? And with no hesitation, he says yes. People ask, do you think there is enough talent on this team to bounce back? No hesitation. He goes, you're goddamn right, I do.
He has to say that, though, doesn't he?
I don't know what people
He doesn't have to say
just
that.
like I said, little less ESPN, little more actually watching the person you are talking about speak and not listen to what other people are saying about that person.
Well, living here in Wisconsin, I live near Pewaukee, and so I got a ton of Packer friends here, and everyone that I've talked to is ready as soon as they started losing. Like, well, we need to get rid of him. If he's not winning, they turn on him as fans, and so so that's I've been getting that in my ear too. And when I hear kind of that, it's like, I don't know.
Jake, what did I say on the show today?
A lot of shit. Which part are you pointing out?
This is essentially what it boils down to, is that people don't want to get better.
Yeah.
People just want to be better. Everybody wants to skip all the work in the middle. And they just want to take out LaFleur and replace him with this guy, and take out Barry and replace him with this guy.
Like it's fucking Madden or
all
something,
the problems in one move. It's the same. We saw this with the Bucks. Jake and I saw this with the Bucks for 2 fucking years. People like, fire Budenholzer. We need to fire Budenholzer. If we get a good coach, we're going to win a championship. Then they win a championship with Mike Budenholzer. It's not this like plug and play one person scapegoat bullshit that everybody is acting like it is. Oh, we need to pull Rodgers. We need to fire LaFleur. We need to fire Barry. It's a scapegoat mentality that nobody wants to go through a grind. And I get that going through a rebuild isn't fun. And even if it's a soft rebuild, like a potential 1-year rebuild, like we're looking at with the Packers, whether, they've found what they have in Dobbs and Watson, and next year they can roll forward with those two. But to go from 3 straight 13-win seasons to burn it to the ground, it's mind-boggling to me. So like he said, we're talking that it's a bold take for the Packers to bounce back next year. It's really not. Like, to have 3 straight years of 13 wins, this season is the outlier.
Yeah.
In the Matt LaFleur era.
So
Stamp it.
I'd say this has been fantastic. Where can everyone find you again, Tyler and Jake?
Well, I'm at tshickett13 on Twitter. Shelby, I followed you on Twitter to find your podcast. So
Okay, I got you. Actually, I'll message you guys
Sure.
Yeah.
And then I run the Wisco Fanatics. That is the name of our show. I run that on Facebook and Twitter. And then Jake, I believe, takes care of Instagram. And then Jake, go ahead.
Yeah. So you can find us on YouTube and Facebook. We go live on Wednesdays. So if other Packers fans, if you guys like the Bucks, Badgers, Brewers, we got the latest on that. Yes, we already took care of all the people bitching and complaining about Trainer Renfro. We covered the Badgers football and the Badgers basketball today. All the people complaining about the lack of offense, but the amazing defense. Friday, you guys can tune in or you guys can join. We do it live just like this because we like to react to the questions that people like to ask. That's our Packer episode. We have 2 of our buddies join us, Simon and Brian. They're both really, really smart guys. I think you guys would like the structure of our show. We do offense, defense, we do matchups, we do keys to victory, and then when we do our score predictions, we do one from the head and one from the heart, because those are always different, right? From the heart, it's always going to be, oh man, we're going to kick their ass, right? But from the head, that's more analytical. So that's going to be your more realistic one. So yeah, come join us, come check us out. I always talk shit, so if you like somebody that talks shit and you like a smart guy, this is your combo.
Love it. And where can everyone find you again, Ryan?
Packernet Podcast. It's about Twitter's. You can follow me if you want, Pack_Daddy, but it's mostly me just talking trash about the Bears. That's about it. So
I can handle it. I don't think I could live in the same town everyone loves my team. I love talking trash and getting trash. It's fun for me. It's all in good nature.
I grew up in Illinois, so I got a little complex about that. And I'm like a wanted man on Bears Twitter. I didn't want that. I just got stuck in that. So now anytime I say anything, Bears Twitter finds it. They circulate it among themselves, and it's just this thing that blows up. So I can't even say anything about the Bears anymore without getting absolutely annihilated. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, if that sounds interesting, you can follow me. Otherwise, just Packernet Podcast.
This is a safe spot. This is a safe place right here. John, where can everyone find you?
So I got a monopoly on our It's at Green Bay Chat. It's all one word, Green Bay Chat. We are on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok, all under that one.
Nice.
Being an old guy trying to learn TikTok and Snapchat, my 15-year-old daughter is helping me out with that quite a bit. But our podcast is, we do a weekly, and we put the video up on YouTube. We'll then put the audio only out through Anchor and Spotify. But then game day, I try to put content out, Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram, things like that, because I also do tailgating. So I go to every Packer game. We have a big tailgate party in Green Bay. It traditionally had been in Lot 1. But Lot 1 is under construction this year, so we've been moved over to Lot 9. And so for the home games, you can check our content of just some pictures of people coming by, having fun, doing our shot ski. I've got a couple of the flyover videos for my reels, which are pretty cool. So trying to learn how to do content has been fun, and getting it to cross over to all of the different apps. But I was lucky enough to get Green Bay Chat as our for every single one of them. And then for our weekly show, we like to get guests. I know Pack Daddy has been on our show last year. We already have someone lined up as a Bears guest, but we could use a Minnesota guest later this year, Shelby. So I'll reach out to you a little bit later if you're open to it.
Stuff.
Gotcha.
Awesome. And where can everyone find you, Trevor?
Yeah, so a couple places. Twitter, I'm RevTrevK. Love posting on there. Love interacting with people who are realistic. But YouTube is my main landing spot. I do Kempner Sports, and I do fantasy football strategy. Everyone wants to know who to start. I want to talk about strategies. I help people win championships, and so that's what I do there, as well as Packers content, and I do a little bit of NHL as well. I love all kinds of sports, so I'm a huge Packers fan, as you can see. But that's where you can find me. I'm also on Facebook, Kempner Sports. You can find me there as well.
Very good. And last but not least, Shelby.
Saving the best for last. Shelby Tweten on Instagram, Twitter, and then, like I said, the Aries Archive is our brand, which Caitlin Thielen did post our custom jackets this last week.
Nice.
So it's all uphill from here. But as Trev knows, and anyone who follows me, I am definitely entertaining on Twitter. So I suggest a follow. But I do talk a lot of shit. So shit talking queen.
All great. And once again, I'm NFL Updated on Twitter, on YouTube, and not quite on the TikTok yet, but eventually. Thanks again, everyone. Once again, it's been the Freezin for NFC North podcast. Happy Thanksgiving, and let's have another great week within the NFC North.
Woo,
yes.
Skull.
Thank you for having
Let's
us on.
go.
Everybody be safe tomorrow. Safe travels.
You too. Thanks
Happy
again.
Thanksgiving,
Have a good
guys.
night.
You too.